The road to get to Needle Rock Visitor Center at Sinkyone Wilderness State Park is a little rough, but most cars can make it. We just passed a little tiny compact car and they were driving up this road no problem. What's for dinner, Squeaks? We're having dinner at a beautiful place too on the California coast. We've got a beautiful barn to sleep in tonight. $30 a night for, I think, what would probably be about a $300 or $400 Airbnb in some places. We're gonna go hike on the Lost Coast Trail at the Sinkyone Wilderness section tomorrow morning, and we're cooking our amazing zucchini blossoms that we got from the Garberville Farmers Market today. Yummy! Wow, look at the big ones.
Oh, brother. Look at these squash blossoms.
Lost Coast Trail. So north of here is the northern section of the Lost Coast Trail, which is managed by the King Range National Conservation Area. That's the section where one needs to time their trip with the tides and you need a permit in order to hike that section of the Lost Coast Trail. Here we're right in the middle of the Lost Coast Trail, where to the south is the Sinkyone Wilderness State Park. That's where we're going to be hiking today. The section of the Lost Coast Trail in the Sinkyone Wilderness State Park is rugged. But if you're looking for something off the beaten path where you might end up seeing a 600, 800, or even 1,000 pound wild animal, such as a Roosevelt elk, then this trail might be for you. Before we hit the trail at Sinkyone Wilderness State Park, I want to show you some of the accommodations here at Needle Rock Visitor Center. There's plenty of campgrounds here on the bluff right above the Pacific Ocean. And if you get lucky, there's one campsite in particular that you're not roughing it so much, you're actually camping in a barn. So Soup, Squeaks, and I all camped in this barn last night. It's really special. There's only one. It's first come, first serve. Inside was magical. There was swallows nesting all inside of this building. And so all we could hear all night, as we got a great night of rest, were waves crashing on the ocean rocks beneath us and swallows singing in the attic. At the Needle Rock Visitor Center in Sinkyone Wilderness State Park is also the trailhead to the Sinkyone Wilderness section of the Lost Coast Trail. Information online about where you're going to be camping is not always going to be the most accurate. So it's always a best practice to check in with the camp post, such as the camp post here at Needle Rock Visitor Center in Sinkyone Wilderness State Park.
Yeah, he was a nice dude.
And they're always the nicest people you'll ever meet. So here we are at Sinkyone Wilderness State Park. We're at the Needle Rock Visitor Center right now in the north end of the state park. Squeaks is only allowed to hike as far as Orchard Creek right there, because beyond that, there's a high frequency of elk. What do you think of the apple?
It's sour, it's tart, it's great, and it was a gift, so it's even better.
A gift from a local farmer here in Humboldt County. Good fuel for our Lost Coast hike today. Here on the Lost Coast, the cliffs are up straight up out of the Pacific Ocean. I'm glad this fence is here, and I think you can see why on the Lost Coast there's a reason we didn't build highways up here. Not much room, lots of erosion, and a sheer drop straight into the Pacific Ocean. Squeak smells plenty of different animals out here. Clearly there's a big elk dropping. We've seen plenty of tracks and also dung from elk. So there's probably plenty of elk activity out here. Hopefully we don't see any elk before we get to our campground, because we're not allowed to bring the dogs anywhere near the elk out here. That's part of the state park rules. Squeaks is really activated by these smells though. Squeaks doesn't just smell elk out here, he also smells little rabbits and other creatures which hide under these blackberry bushes. So when he's sniffing, he's not just trying to sniff for food, he's really working and he's stimulating his mind. There's a whole lot of rainfall here on the California Lost Coast. That causes these creeks to run down to the ocean from every little nook and cranny on the Lost Coast Trail. So So you're winding your way up a ridge inland, up a creek, and then you wind your way back down the creek towards the Pacific Ocean. Squeaks is really happy to help guide you on your journey. This is his favorite thing to do, and you can help him out by subscribing to Squeaks and Sparks on YouTube. Oh, Squeak! At the Garberville Farmers Market yesterday, we got a whole variety of different cucumbers. Parisian, Japanese. I've never had a Japanese cucumber before.
Oh, well, here you go.
And they're so beautiful and so fresh. But I don't recommend you try tasting one of these cucumbers. I don't see any fruit right here, right now, but this is a wild cucumber. And the first time that I ever tasted one of these, I thought, hey, that looks just like a cucumber. So I went to take a bite. It was the most bitter thing I ever had in my whole life, and my mouth was numb for the whole night. Somebody's been picking a lot of these blackberries, but every once in a while I'll find a ripe one out here. Wow. Here's another rabbit. Squeak smells a rabbit in there. Squeaks, you think you're gonna catch a rabbit in the briar patch? I don't think so, not here. Squeak smells something. I don't know if it's an elk or a rabbit or a grouse, but he smells something in those bushes. So, Squeaks has spotted an elk. We're not quite to Orchard Camp yet. They're looking right at us. I might even turn around because Squeaks is having a stare down with these elk. We're gonna give them some space, just like they tell us at the camp post station. Let's get out of here, Squeaks. We don't want to have any encounters. Come on, baby. Even though we're only a few hundred feet from where we were going to camp, which is Orchard Camp, and technically Squeaks would be allowed to sleep there for the night, we saw some elk in this canyon on our side here, and we turned around and we decided to give the elk their space. Since there's only a few of these Roosevelt elk left in the Sinkyone Wilderness State Park, we don't want to disturb them unnecessarily. And even though the elk were pretty far from Squeaks, they had a little stare down. And this is why it's important to keep your dog on leash and follow the state park rules. Because if Squeaks got off leash and started to harass those elk, who knows what they would have done in response. They might have attacked him. You can see there's very strict rules about dogs, and dogs are only allowed in certain section of this park. Let's get out of here, Squeaks. Let's give the Roosevelt elk some space and head back up the trail. Here's a very pointy rock. I wonder if this is needle rock. There's a whole flock of seagulls perched on the west side of that needle rock. I see pelicans soaring above the ocean looking for the next meal. Wow, look, the pelicans getting up on the Needle Rock over there.
Big birds.
What a rugged section of the California coast. Jagged rocks, natural bridges, erosion, limestone and shale, eroding into the ocean. I'm a little tired. I think Squeaks might be too.
Hang on, boys.
As wild as this section of the Lost Coast was, we invite you to check out parts 2 and 3 of our Lost Coast series for even bigger and wilder adventures.